Hi, I'm Greg Rennick with the University Career Development Center, and today we'll continue talking about job interviews. We recommend you watch our presentation on interview preparation first, but if you've done that, then we're ready to move on and conquer the actual job interview. The interview starts with your arrival. You want to make a positive entrance and have a positive appearance, and you can do that by remaining enthusiastic about the opportunity to interview with this organization. You want to be relaxed, but be confident at the same time. Make sure you give a nice firm handshake and make eye contact with everyone you meet, because you only get one chance to make that first impression, and it will really set the tone for the interview that follows. When you sit down for the actual interview, you'll be faced with numerous types of questions. One type are traditional questions. These are generic questions that you'll see in most job interviews. And to a certain extent, you can prepare for these questions in advance. While you never want to have answers memorized, it certainly doesn't hurt to be prepared. So let's look at one example of a traditional question.
First of all, tell me about yourself.
Tell me about yourself. This is the first question in almost every single interview. So if you know it's coming, have a response ready. Again, don't memorize any answers, but certainly know what you want to include. Now, this response is sometimes known as your 30-second commercial, and it's really just a summary of who you are and why you're a good fit for the job. Specifically, you want to include your name and what year you are in school, the degree you're working towards, a brief example of relevant experience, and why that experience makes you a good fit for the job. So an example response might be, my name is Toby Flenderson, and I'm a senior marketing major at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. Through my internship at Mifflin Advertising, I've learned firsthand the importance of teamwork and meeting deadlines when working to complete a project. And because of what I've learned through this experience, I feel I can fit right in and share my innovative ideas with your team. So here Toby's given a brief summary of who he is and why he's a good fit for the job. So let's look at another example of a traditional question.
What is your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
Your strengths and weaknesses. Again, questions you'll see in many interviews. So first, let's look at your strength. There are two things to keep in mind when you talk about your strength. Number one, you want to make it a strength that's relevant to this job. And second, you want to make it a strength that you actually have. If you say, well, I'm a strong leader, you need to make sure you have an example ready of a time you took on a leadership position. Now, weakness, that's a little tougher. The key here is you don't want to disguise a strength as a weakness. And this is actually the most common response recruiters get. People will say, well, I'm a perfectionist, or I work too hard. And those are actually strengths that you're twisting around. Everyone has weaknesses, and they're more concerned that you've recognized your weakness and you're actively trying to improve it. So give a real weakness. You might say, in the past, I've struggled with organization, but recently I've started keeping up with a new planner, and I've even installed a calendar on my phone, so I'm up to date and make all my appointments on time. This shows that you've recognized what your weakness is, and you're actively trying to improve it. Another type of question you'll see in an interview is a behavioral question, and these are becoming more and more popular. These questions ask about specific examples from your past. So let's look at an example of what I mean by that.
Describe a time when you worked with a group to solve a problem.
This question is asking about a specific example from your past. The best way to prepare for these behavioral questions is to have 3 to 6 key experiences in mind when you enter the interview. That way, no matter what the question is, you'll have some experience to draw from. Now, to answer behavioral questions, you want to follow the STAR approach. That means, when explaining your answer, you first give an overview of the situation or task. Then, explain the steps you took or your action, and finally explain how it all ended up, the results. So for this sample question, describe a time when you worked with a group to solve a problem, an answer might be, one group effort I was involved in was in my communication class. We were assigned to develop and give a group presentation about how the diversity of our student body benefits the university. We made a plan and divided up responsibility among the group members, but 2 days before the presentation, the member in charge of the visual aid dropped the class. The rest of us had to work long nights together, but we created a very informative PowerPoint slideshow to use as our visual aid. And when all was said and done, we ended up receiving an A on the project. By formatting this answer in the STAR approach, it's very easy to see what the situation was, what actions were taken, and how everything resulted, making for a nice, clear answer. Besides traditional and behavioral questions, you might see additional question types. These could be hypothetical questions, like what would you do if a coworker was stealing company money? Maybe some open, very direct questions like why should we hire you? Or even some out-of-the-box questions like are you lucky? The point of these questions is that they're hard to prepare for, so it gives the interviewer a chance to see how you think on your feet. And in many cases, there's no right or wrong answer. So if you're approached with a question that kind of catches you off guard, just relax, gather your thoughts, and deliver the best answer that comes to mind. And the last question of almost every single interview is, do you have any questions for us? And as we discussed in our interview preparation video, the worst thing you can do is say no. When you're doing your research on the company, you always want to jot down a few questions to ask the employer. These could be things like, what's your favorite part of working for this company? Or, what would I be expected to do that's not written on the job description? These questions show that you've taken the time to do your research and also that you have a sincere interest in the organization. And the interview doesn't end when the questions are over. Be sure to make a strong exit. You can do this by thanking everyone for the opportunity that you've been given. Make eye contact, give firm handshakes, and get the names and business cards of the individuals who interviewed you. And the key thing here is to remain enthusiastic throughout the entire process. The final part of an interview is the follow-up. Now this is extremely important but is often forgotten. You want to follow up immediately with a thank you note. And ideally, you can send a short thank you note to each individual that was involved in your interview. This will really help you stand out from the rest of the candidates. And now just a few general interview tips. First of all, believe it or not, the employer wants you to do well. They liked your resume enough to invite you in for the opportunity, so they want you to succeed. So relax and be confident. Also, it's okay to take your time when you're answering questions. It's not necessarily important that you answer questions immediately. If a question catches you off guard, it's fine to pause for a few seconds, gather your thoughts, and deliver a strong answer. At the end of the day, they're going to remember the answers you gave, not how quickly you gave the answers. And finally, most importantly, you have to practice. And the best way to practice is by taking part in mock interviews. Experts actually recommend having 5 or 6 mock interviews before the real thing. And at the Career Development Center, we offer mock interviews free to U of A students. You can come in, sit down in a formal interview setting, but we can go over more sample questions and give you tips on how to answer those questions. Thank you for watching this online presentation on job interviews. For more information, or if you'd like to schedule a mock interview, please visit the University Career Development Center in the Arkansas Union Room 607, that's above the ballroom, or call us at 479-575-2805.